Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Mythical Madam Podcast. I'm June, your host, and tonight we return to the Aztec Underworld. In the last episode, we stood at the threshold with Mictecacihuatl, the Lady of the Dead, watching over the offerings laid out by the living. Food for hunger, blankets for cold, treasures for safe passage. And the Soloitzcuintli, the faithful dog who would lead the soul across the river, dividing the living from the dead. But she was not alone. At her side ruled Mictlantecuhtli, the Lord of the Dead, keeper of inevitability itself. Together they presided over Mictlan. She received, he enforced, and every soul who entered did so under their gaze. These offerings were not just symbols, they were the only way forward, because what awaited was not silence, and it was not rest. Mictlan is a place of trials, 9 layers deep, where the soul is tested by rivers, mountains, arrows, spears, and winds sharper than obsidian, a passage that strips away everything until only endurance remains. The path of Mictlan begins now. Welcome to episode 14. The first trial of Mictlan is the river Apanahuaya. The soul's journey begins as its banks, a river wide, restless, merciless. The current does not welcome travelers. It pulls, it twists, it drags at the spirit as though the water itself wants to claim what life has left behind. But on the shore, which the Soloitzcuintli, the dog buried alongside its master. It does not bark, it does not question, it simply waits, patient and loyal, ready to guide the soul into the rushing dark. If the dog recognizes you as its own, it steps forward into the water. Together you cross, each step pressed against hidden stones, every movement carried by trust. Without the dog, the river would take you whole. And it said, if you were cruel to dogs in your living life, if you turned them away or caused them harm, then no Sholo would answer your call. You would wander the banks forever, never reaching the far side. Mictecacihuatl bore witness, but it was Mictlantecuhtli who made certain the river showed no mercy. The first lesson was clear. Kindness in life was not forgotten in death. The river crossing was only the beginning. On the far side, the path rose into the second trial, 2 mountains that grinded together like jaws of stone. They clashed, separate, and slammed back with thunderous force. The soul must wait, watching for the nearest opening and step through before the stone crashes shut. Hesitation is death, rushing is death, only courage carries you forward. The third level strips away warmth itself, a plane of unrelenting cold where icy winds never stop. They lash at flesh and spirit alike, cutting to the bone. There is no shelter here, only endurance, each step smaller, weaker, until the soul feels ready to scatter into snow. And beyond the wind lies the fourth trial, mountains clad in obsidian blades. The stone gleams black, sharper than any weapon forged by human hands. Every foothold carves into the soul. Every climb leaves blood behind. Mictecacihuatl stood as guardian, watching each soul suffer the climb. Mictlantecuhtli enforced the trial itself. Their jaws did not pause. The winds did not soften. The blades did not dull. His decree was clear. Pain is the price of progress. The soul has no time to rest. The path through Mictlan moves swiftly now, trial stacked upon trial. On the 5th level, arrows rain from the sky. They strike without warning, piercing not to kill but to weaken. Every shaft a reminder, progress comes at a cost. Then comes the 6th level. Endless barrage of unseen spears. They fly from the shadows, hurled by invisible hands. The soul could not see its attackers, and they cannot strike back. The only choice is to keep walking through pain and through fear, refusing to stop. While Mictecacihuatl bore witness to the suffering, the relentlessness of the attack belonged to Mictlantecuhtli. No one escaped his law. Endurance was the only way forward. The 7th trial of Mictlan is unlike the ones before. Mountains you can see, spirits you can dodge. But here, the danger is everywhere. The soul steps into a valley where the air itself is alive. endless wind filled with obsidian knives. It howls across the plain, carrying blades that never miss. Each gust tears at the body, slicing the skin from flesh from bone. There is no shelter, no wall to press against, no calm between strikes. The soul cannot fight it. The only way through is to let the wind do its work. Piece by piece, it strips the spirit of what remains of its human form, the weight of the body, the reality of flesh, till nothing is left but the bare essence of the soul. Mictlantecuhtli's law is that the wind never ceased until the soul was remade. This was not a trial of strength, it was a trial of surrender. The eighth realm is not a landscape at all. It is absence, a darkness so complete the soul loses all sense of self. No ground beneath his feet, no sky above, only weightless silence. Time dissolves, memory unravels. Here, Mictlantecuhtli's reign is most strong. His presence was everywhere, in the silence, in the inevitability pressing from all sides. And then, at last, the ninth and final realm. A barren plain, no rivers, no winds, no blades, just stillness. Here stands both rulers, Mictecacihuatl, Lady of the Dead, and Mictlantehtli, Lord of the Dead. She receives the soul, he confirms its journey. Together, they bear witness. And when the passage is complete, the soul will dissolve into the earth. No crown, no punishment, no reward, only rest and return. Before we leave Mictlan behind, let's pause on the words themselves. Mictlan comes from two parts, Miqui, meaning to die, and land, meaning place. Simply put together, the place of the dead. The lord of this realm, Mictlantecuhtli, breaks down as Miqui, death, and Tecuhtli, lord, the lord of the dead. Before we leave Mictlan behind, let's pause on the words themselves. Mictlan comes from two parts, Miqui, meaning to die, and Lan, meaning place. Simply put, the place of the dead. The lord of this realm, Mictlantecuhtli, breaks down as Miqui, death, and Tecuhtli, lord, the lord of the dead. Even the trials echo this directness. Apanahuaya, the river, comes from Ato, meaning water, and Panahua, to cross. Put that together, the water you must cross. The Aztecs did not soften these truths. Death was not distant, and neither was the language. The words themselves carried inevitability. So what do we take after learning about Mictlan? The Aztecs didn't imagine an easy afterlife. There was no shortcut, no stairway to heaven. Every soul, whether ruler or commoner, faced the same 9 trials. There's something humbling in that. It reminds us that in life, like Mictlan, it isn't measured by rewards waiting at the end. It's measured by how we move through what's placed in front of us. The rivers we cross, the winds we endured, the mountains we climb. The lesson is endurance. You don't need to be perfect or powerful or fearless. You just need to keep walking, step after step, even when the path cuts into you, even when you feel like you've been stripped of everything else, because sometimes survival itself is a victory. Mictlan may sound like a myth, but its traces remained in history. Much of what we know comes from the Florentine Codex, a 16th century encyclopedia compiled by Bernardino de Sahagún. Naha elders describe the 9 levels of Mictlan in vivid detail, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been erased. Archaeologists have uncovered Aztec burials with obsidian blades and bundles of paper, tokens believed to symbolize the trials ahead, tools for the journey. Unlike other traditions promising eternal reward or punishment, the Aztecs believed most souls would eventually reach rest. Mictlan was not cruel, it's just inevitable, neutral, necessary. Life and death were part of one cycle. To return to the earth was not failure, but completion. Mictlan wasn't just the end of the road for the dead, it was also a stage for myths that shaped how Aztecs understood creation itself. One of the most powerful stories tells of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. When the fifth sun, the age we live in now, was created, the gods needed humanity to repopulate the earth. So Quetzalcoatl descended into Mictlan itself to retrieve the bones of the dead. He carried them back to the world above, mixing them with his own blood to give life to humankind. In other words, our very existence was believed to come from the bones Mictecacihuatl and Mictlantehuhtli guarded. Humanity was literally born from death. Here's another detail. Mictlantehuhtli and Mictecacihuatl weren't imagined as distant, untouchable figures. Archaeological finds show their likeness carved into ceremonial vessels, murals, and codices. Sometimes, Mictlantehuhtli is shown as a skeletal figure with his jaw wide open, as if ready to swallow the stars. The open jaws weren't just horror. They were the symbol of death's certainty. And did you know Aztec rituals sometimes included offerings of paper or even small effigies of dogs, not only as grave goods but as household protection? The idea was that even in life, you were preparing for the journey that awaited next. Finally, here's another fascinating fun last fact for you all. Mictlan was thought to lie in the north. For the Aztecs, north wasn't just a direction on the map, it was the land of the cold, of darkness, of the dead. So whenever they oriented their temples or rituals, north symbolized not just absence, but the inevitability of returning to the earth. So when we talk about Mictlan, we aren't just talking about the afterlife. We're talking about a place tied to origin myths, daily rituals, and even geography itself. It was both destination and beginning. Mictlan was not only imagined, it was made visible, carved in stone so no one could forget its reach. At the great temple of Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec capital, archaeologists uncovered carvings of Mictlantehuhtli, the lord of the dead. He is skeletal, hollowed-eyed, his jaw gaping as if to swallow the living. Etched into his bones are lines that speak of decay, but also renewal. That such imagery stood in the empire's most sacred space tells us something important. Death was not hidden, it was central, woven into the city itself. Mictecacihuatl, his queen, appears differently. She is often shown with flayed skin, a reminder of her sacrifice, yet still adorned with jewelry, an image of both suffering and sovereignty. Together, their depictions reveal something crucial. The Aztecs did not separate the unsettling from the divine. What was frightening was also sacred. And their presence wasn't only symbolic. At the Great Temple, rituals sometimes included human sacrifice in their name. Blood offered as nourishment for the underworld itself. A stark reminder that Mictlan was never far from the living. Its presence felt in daily worship and the rhythm of the empire. Mictlan also lives on in festivals. During the Aztec month of Mictcacihuatl, the festival of the little dead, children were honored and remembered. Later, in Mictecacihuatl, the grand festival of the dead, adults were celebrated. These ceremonies predate and feed directly into what we know now as Dios los Muertos. Today, when families build ofrendas with candles, food, and photos, they're echoing the same belief that the dead need provisions and remembrance to complete their journey. Even the marigold paths laid out to guide spirits mirror the role of the dog in leading a soul across. And beyond Mexico, the imagery of Mictlan continues in murals and literatures and films like Coco and Book of Life. And echoes of this underworld and its rulers appear again and again. It's proof that the Aztec vision of death, near despair nor denial, but endurance, still resonates centuries later. Mictlan was not a place of judgment. It did not divide the good from the wicked, the powerful from the powerless. It was the same road for all, a reminder that in death there are no hierarchies, only endurance. The Aztecs lived in a world where death was constant, war, famine, disease, yet instead of imagining punishment or reward, they imagined resilience. The afterlife wasn't about sin or virtue, it was about persistence, a soul that kept moving even when there was nothing left to hold on to. There is something haunting but also strangely comforting in that every soul, no matter who they were in life, could walk the same path, that love, loyalty, and endurance were the only things that carried you through. And that, my friends, concludes our two-part journey into the Aztec underworld, from the offerings at the altar to the final plane of Mictlan. This was never just a story of death. It was a story of passage, of what it means to keep going even when everything else has been taken away. But as one passage closes, another begins. December is coming, and with it, a figure who shapes storms and bends the seasons to her will. Next time we meet Beira, the Queen of Winter. This has been the Mythical Madam Podcast. I'm June. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And make sure to leave your comments if you're listening on Spotify. Don't miss out on a single episode. Episodes dropping bi-weekly, so make sure to subscribe on the show on Substack at Mythical Madam and my YouTube channel. The Mythical Madam is produced and edited in partnership with Andy Lara at sunfacemedia.com. I'm incredibly grateful for the collaboration and support in bringing these stories to life. All of this and more linked in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.